Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. Now before you skip to the end and see where the results are, I'm watching. I know a lot of you guys do that. Please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We are almost at 500 subs. I know 90% of you guys watching this skip ahead. Don't sub, all that fun jazz. But guys, if you can get to 500 this week, I would really much appreciate it. I'll even do a bonus video this week if we get to 500 subs. We've been doing this for 4 years, and this year has been pretty exciting. We've seen some crazy stuff going on, a lot of firsts in the entire time of the power rankings. And yeah, guys, we're just gonna jump into it from here. And we've talked about it all season long. Number 30, we got a different number 30. We got the Kansas City Royals. They went 0-3 against the Marlins, and then 0-3 against Baltimore for an 0-6 week. Now, leading up till now, I've been saying these guys are a staple at number 30, but number 29, coming off a series sweep this weekend over the Milwaukee Brewers, shocking us all. They won the series earlier in the week against the Pittsburgh Pirates. So what is that? 3 series wins in the past 2 weeks? I don't think we thought that this was going to be possible for the A's. And on top of that, we know they met earlier this season and the A's won that series. So I can no longer really say they're the worst team. We got a team in the Royals who have lost 6 in a row. And we got the A's who somehow are on the up and up. So congratulations, A's. You're 29. Number 28, same spot. 0-2 against Arizona, 1-2 against Atlanta. Washington's been pretty bad. Arguably, you could start to say maybe the A's can compete with this team. But guys, let's not forget the A's still have the worst record in the MLB. Washington, while the worst in the National League East, they've managed to put up a lot more fight, in my opinion, against other teams and better teams along the way. So it's going to be a long way to go for the A's. Let's keep them winning to see if that can happen. Number 27, we got the Colorado Rockies. 0-3 against San Fran and 0-2 against San Diego. Guys, they were on a way to losing the 3rd game against San Diego. Right now, it's in a rain delay. They were in the bottom of the 9th. It was pouring rain. I think they just wanted to get the game over. And of course, Ryan McMahon goes up and hits a dinger out of there. So now the game's in rain delay, 4-4 that game. Otherwise, they'd be an 0-6 week too. The Rockies have been pretty rough, and they're by far the worst in the National League West. Next up, we got the Cardinals, 1-2 against Texas, 1-2 against Cincinnati. So they've managed to fight their way back up a little bit. I think this is a new career low for the power rankings for the Cardinals. Season low for sure. I don't see them being any lower in the prior 4 seasons, honestly. So the Cardinals they're in a really tough spot right now. And after watching Cincinnati come out this week with a monster week, we'll talk about that in a second. Cardinals have a long way to go. This division seems to be shaking up. It's a new era coming to the National League Central. And I know a lot of you teams in there that felt a lot of pain are getting excited about that. Next up, Detroit Tigers, 0-3 against Philly, 0-3 against Arizona. They are currently on a 9-game losing streak. After starting the season last, working their way up, I think as high as 20th, Detroit has come back down to earth, I guess. A long way to go now. They're far back in the division. No chance at wild card. With all the powerhouses ahead of them, Detroit's kind of in that spot. This is probably where we're going to see them majority of the rest of the season. Next up, Cincinnati Reds, number 24. And guys, this is probably a floor for Cincinnati now. If you haven't seen this kid yet, De La Cruz has been a monster addition to Cincinnati, being called up this week. Number 4 prospect in the MLB. Cincinnati's number 1 prospect. And he has not disappointed this week at all. Cincinnati winning both series against the Dodgers and against the Cardinals. This guy has stolen bases. He's hit triples. He's hit home runs. This guy looks like a lot of fun. Batting cleanup. Immediately comes up and bats cleanup. Cincinnati, they're pretty happy. This is a look at what the future might hold. This team is very young. A lot of potential. We can see them being a threat. I don't think playoffs are really there, but a threat. 23, we got the Cubs. 0-3 against the Angels, and then they went 2-1 against San Francisco. Cubs should be better, I think. I feel like they should be better than where they are right now. They're just not getting it together. Realistically, Cincinnati could be ahead of them. We're going to see them play each other a bunch. who comes out of that scrap, it's anybody's guess, honestly. Number 22, just not going well for this team. Started the week off 0-3 against the Braves. And like that, that is not good. And then they go 1-2 against Pittsburgh. So against two teams that are probably playoff teams at this rate. They lose their home run hitter this week as well, Alonso. Don't know why I said Alfonso, but Alonso's gone. This team just not getting it together. I don't know what else to say, Mets. They've fallen. They've just really fallen. Number 21, we got the White Sox. Started the week right. 2-1 against the Yankees in a division where they can make up some ground, and really they're well in the playoff hunt. This division is so weak, this American League Central. Started strong against the Yankees, and then they come into this series against the Marlins. I kind of previewed it last week and how it's importance in terms of this. And they crapped the bed the last two games. They won the first game, and then the last two games they had leads going into the ninth, and the Marlins stole it away from them both times, including 5 runs in yesterday's ninth inning, then again blowing it today. So the White Sox, a lot of concern in the bullpen side of things. Still think they're going to pull it together, but right now I need to see some results from them, and soon. Number 20, Seattle. 1-1 against San Diego, 1-2 against the Angels. Kind of a meh week, and we need to see something that isn't meh out of the Mariners if we're going to start seeing them move up. They got 3 teams ahead of them in this division, and not a whole lot of promise to show that they have what it takes to catch up. Losing the series to the Angels is supposed to be that next chopping block for them. If they can't beat the Angels, who's on third, they're going to have trouble with the Rangers, of course, and the Astros. So right now they're solid 4th in the American League West. Number 19, Cleveland. Good week for Cleveland. 2-1 against Boston, 2-1 against Houston. A little bit of momentum here. They're going to try to make ground on this Minnesota team, and of course they're the closest couple of games. I still don't know if they have the roster to match up with Minnesota in a head-to-head match. Maybe that doesn't matter. They have a kind of roster that can match up on a given night, take some wins, and they showed it this week against some solid teams, winning both series. Whether it's going to be consistent, I don't know yet. Number 19 kind of speaks that they have a shot at playoffs. It's kind of a far reach. The only way really they're going to make the playoffs is winning the division. Number 18, you got it, guys. 3-0 against Kansas City, 2-1 against the White Sox. I already touched on the White Sox series, but 3-0 against Kansas City. And guys, I heard you guys in the comments last week, probably for the last couple of weeks, about how I've had the Marlins too low. Disrespectful having them in the bottom row. And this is me moving them up. And I understand what you guys are saying. I'm tending to agree. I watched a lot of them this week, including those 2 games against the White Sox where really they should have lost and they won the 9th. So that's kind of what Miami's had going for them this year. They've been stealing these games, and if they keep doing it, I guess I got to give them credit. Maybe they have some angels in the outfield. I don't know, but I'm going to give them some credit. They're still above 500. They're still second in that division, but right, in my opinion, middle of the pack in terms of all these teams. Number 17, we got the San Diego Padres. 1-1 against Seattle and a 2-0 against Colorado. Again, I talked about that rain delay that's going on. A little bit of a quiet week, right? We only got 4 games in the books. About to be a 5th. Maybe they'll win it and have a really solid week. But San Diego, they need to start putting their pedal in the metal. 16. This is where the National League starts to get interesting. 3-0 against Detroit. 2-1 against the Dodgers. They'd won 6 in a row before they first lost to the Dodgers this week. Phillies are starting to come around. And this is a team that clearly made it to the World Series last year, so we got to give them some credit where credit's due. But they have a lot of ground to make up, and I don't see them catching the top seed Atlanta. So wild card is exactly where they're going to be fighting. And this wild card in the National League is thick. And right now, they're on the outside looking in. Next up, this is a team they're going to have to catch. San Francisco Giants, 3-0 against Colorado, 1-2 against the Cubs. So a little bit of a choke, but they managed to come in today with a massive win on the Cubs, avoid the sweep. Got to be consistent. This San Fran team's been pretty consistent all season long. A little bit of a slow start. I had them pretty low early. They've turned it around. I think they've been playing 600 baseball, at least for maybe close to 2 months. So as long as they keep playing that style and they keep winning some of these series and beating up on teams like Colorado like they did this week, they're going to be right there in the thick of it. Right now, I do have them on the outside looking in, but they're close. Number 14, We got the Boston Red Sox 1-2 against Cleveland, 1-1 against the Yankees, of course. As everybody that usually watches this video, if you're watching in the middle, you're probably more of a regular. You know I do this before the Sunday nighter, and Boston and the Yankees are doing the rubber match tonight. So keep that in mind. But right now, a lot of concern for Boston. They finally dropped below 500. I expected them to be last in this division pretty much all season long, but they've managed to keep a fight going, at least up until this point. But dropping below 500, it's going to be a lot of work for Boston to really get out of there. But you gotta give them credit. They're still a very strong team, and I would take them against all these lower teams. Number 13, moving up a couple of spots, we got the Angels 3-0 against the Cubs. So starting the week good, and then beating their division rival Seattle on the weekend. Angels, they're starting to quietly become a threat. Not quite in a playoff spot. Division, they got a lot of ground to make up. 2 teams ahead of them, but wild card is where they're going to be keeping their focus on. So that's really going to come down to how they match up and play when they play the American League West or the American League East teams. Only got a couple of those left. So I know they already played the Jays. I know they already played the O's. I know they've played, I think, most of the teams once. So it's going to be the second round going through. It's going to be what's important for the Angels down the stretch, let alone beating up the A's when you play them, beating up some wins off the Rangers and so on, and beating up on the Central when you play them. That's going to be key for the Angels. Number 12. What a rough week for Milwaukee, really. They started it off good. They beat the Orioles, a team that ahead of them in the power rankings, a team that's been monster. Kind of wanting to say that this team can compete against anyone. I say that all the time, but then it's like they blew their load against Baltimore, and Oakland swept them, and that really is disappointing because not only did they get swept by Oakland, they also lost the division lead in this division, and to me, this was their division to lose, and right now they've been slipping slowly and slowly further behind in terms of being the favorite, and right now they're not the favorite. So a lot of concern. Number 11, Minnesota Twins 0-3 against Tampa, but they bounced back 2-1 against Toronto. So the Twins, their offense was on powerhouse, especially against Toronto. Maybe got shut out a little bit against Tampa. But against Toronto, you saw what they were capable of. The pitching, a little bit concerning. They're right around 500 as well. I'm sure they beat Toronto here. Maybe came super close to the sweep even. But I'm concerned, and I want to keep them a little bit closer to the middle because I'm not sure the playoffs are en route for them. Definitely these teams still a little bit wide margin, but they're on their tail. Number 10, highest ever for Pittsburgh. 1-2 against Oakland, and then they beat the Mets over the weekend. So the Pirates take the division lead, and right now, that's going to be good enough for a playoff spot, of course. And even Milwaukee, I think, is sitting in a playoff spot if you're looking at the wild card race. But Pittsburgh, got to be excited. This team's been performing really well, and with O'Neal Cruz taking his walking boot off, maybe he'll be back in the lineup sooner rather than later. It's only going to be a boost for this team. And I think if they can hold on to this division lead until he gets back, they're going to be cruising after that. But yeah, National League versus American League wise, we're still talking about teams that are borderline playoffs, whereas like American League, this team, they're like a lock for the playoffs if you make the American League. The American League is definitely a lot more stacked, it seems. Number 9, we've got the Arizona Diamondbacks. 2-0 against Washington, 3-0 against Detroit. So they had a 5-0 week, and maybe, I think they might stay in the same spot. But we'll talk about it when we get to the Dodgers, but the gap's closed there. I just think the American League's that much stronger, and I don't know if we're going to see Arizona play a lot of these American League teams or not. But I'd like to see it before we really get to it. Number 8, we got Toronto Blue Jays. They started the week off amazing. 3-1 against Houston Astros. Just a monster week, but then they just can't get it going and keep it going against Minnesota. Again, a top team, a good team. I get it. You're not going to win them all. But that's the kind of momentum we want to see in this division for the Jays. The depth of their pitching just so concerning right now. They sent Manoah down to train, I guess you could say. There's been some distractions off with Bass and all that stuff with the Toronto Jays. Sure, they're right now half a game out of a playoff spot. I think Houston's holding on to the last wildcard spot. But really, I kind of expect 3 American League teams American League East teams to take the wild card, so if that's possible. Number 7, we got the Yankees 1-2 against White Sox, 1-1 against Boston. Kind of a quiet week for the Yankees. I haven't seen too much coming out of them. Kind of like a 500 week, but I know they've beat up on the Blue Jays. It's been pretty consistent for them, and I just think they're better than all the rest of the team, so I'm going to keep them there. Number 6, we got the Dodgers, 1-2 against Cincy, 1-2 against Philly, so a losing week. Dodgers had been pretty hot for quite a while there, but a little bit of coming back down to earth, losing both series. Like I was talking about with Arizona, while they didn't move up, the gap between them and the second best National League team, I guess, is closer, and it's closer as a division. So I'm starting to think Arizona, maybe they're going to take this division. I know they might be leading it right now, but I don't know if that'll hold. Number 5, we got the Houston Astros. So talked about them losing to Toronto. They lost to Cleveland 1-2. Same kind of story. Both these teams kind of in the same spot this week. They've been pretty hot and played pretty well for a month to 6 weeks. So I'm not going to hold this 1 week against them. It's going to be important to see how they bounce back, though. Number 4, Baltimore continues to go 1-2 against Milwaukee, 3-0 against Kansas City. I love to see them bounce back and just absolutely destroy Kansas City after losing that series to Milwaukee. Could have won that series against Milwaukee. It was a close series, back and forth. They're going to continue to kind of keep that status quo because they're a good team. Number 3, Atlanta, 3-0 against the Mets, 2-1 against Washington. I think they won 6 in a row. They really showed me. I maybe over-exaggerated and dropped them too many after a little bit of a rough patch there. But Atlanta seems they're back on path. I don't see anyone really being able to compete with them for this division. Maybe, if possible, Philly's going to keep playing hot baseball and catch up, but it's a big gap. I think it's 8 games, and Atlanta's too good, I think, for that to happen. So 3 should be a pretty solid spot. I expect Atlanta to be one of the buys in the National League. Number 2, it was the matchup we'd been waiting for. Texas versus Tampa played this weekend, and Texas dropped the series 2-1. The rubber match was today. It was awesome series to watch. Texas, on the other hand, beat St. Louis earlier in the week, and Tampa Bay swept Minnesota earlier in the week. So Tampa remains top seed. I think they've been top seed every single time this season. No team has done that. No team's gone from week 1 to the end, let alone half of the season. So there's usually a little bit of a shuffle at one point or another, but Tampa, they can't be beat right now. They're just such a good team, and these players are stepping up when they need to. Not to take anything away from Texas, who has had an amazing season themselves. Well-deserved number 2. I don't think there's any real debate that these 2 teams are the top 2 right now in the MLB. But guys, let me know what you guys think about everything else. Where would you have your team? Where do I have them? Keep the discussion going in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. We will see you guys for that next video.